What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ Today. In this video, we're going to be continuing our draft profile series with wide receiver Rashod Bateman of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He's a big, fast wide receiver who could really form a great 1-2 combination with Denzel Mims on the outside. Should the New York Jets consider drafting him in the NFL draft? We're going to talk about that and more. Let's get after it. So before we get into the game tape for Rashod Bateman, I'm just going to talk about his college career as a whole. So in his freshman year, he played all 13 games. So we see that he's a durable guy. 13 games his freshman year, 13 games his sophomore year. Freshman year, 51 receptions, 704 yards, 6 touchdowns. He follows that up with a tremendous sophomore season, 60 receptions, 1,219 yards, and 11 touchdowns. He really popped in his sophomore year, and then kind of came back down a little bit to earth during the shortened pandemic season. 36 receptions, 472 yards, 2 touchdowns in only 5 games played. So I don't think it's fair to say that we can expect him to do, 20 yards per reception in the NFL. That's a little bit excessive. It's pretty rare in the NFL. And I don't see him in the mold of somebody that's going to be doing that kind of thing in the NFL. So I really compare him more to a Denzel Mims. He really reminds me a lot of him. He's very big. He's fast. He's about 6'2", over 200 pounds. There was a report that came out that he ran a sub 4.4 in the 40-yard dash at his training facility just a couple of weeks ago. So that's very impressive speed. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is that people are really impressed by him at the Senior Bowl. He came off very strong when scouts spoke with him and when they watched him on the field, either in the practices or the actual game itself. So this is a guy that is on the rise as we move along, and that's kind of what we saw with Denzel Mims. He was performing really well during that pre-draft process. So just keep in mind that this is a guy that we might need to use the 23rd overall pick on if the Jets want to get Rashod Bateman. When you're evaluating players in the draft, there are all kinds of things that you need to look at on the field, but there's things that you also need to look at off the field. And I thought that this was a really cool thing that I found when doing my research of Rashod Bateman. So it says here in the clipping, Minnesota junior Rashod Bateman has traded the number 13 he wore in emerging as the Big Ten's best receiver for number 0, which the NCAA is allowing players to wear for the first time this season. Bateman's number switch is rooted in his belief that racism should be eliminated, which is spawned by personal experience. Bateman asked Coach PJ Fleck to change numbers to make a statement. Changing my number to 0 is to show zero tolerance for racism, he said. To understand the impetus behind the number change is to understand the journey of Bateman to Minnesota, the collective scars he has accumulated, and the pain that has shaped his perspective the past 20 years. Bateman has experienced the trauma of racism from an interracial relationship in high school and overcome a stepfather who he says physically abused his mother and verbally abused he and his brothers. So this guy has overcome some trials and some very difficult times in his life. And I think that shows that he's not only a strong individual, he can handle adversity, and that he's a leader. He's not afraid to step up and say what's on his mind that he believes is true and important to other people to know. So we could count on this guy to be a leader for the offense if Joe Douglas decides to select him in the NFL draft. Before we move to the next segment, I just want to make sure you know that if you do disagree with anything that I talk about in the game tape for Rashod Bateman, just let me know what you guys think in the comments and make sure that you clearly state why you disagree with me. One of the things that really stands out to me when I'm watching Rashod Bateman is he has a really good ability to make people miss and to get tacklers off when they're doing these arm tackles. He is really elusive in that sense, and I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Brandon Marshall. Now, Marshall is obviously elite at this, but I can see that he has this ability to get guys off of him pretty quickly and then to be able to get yards after the catch. And this is a great example of that. Once he gets the guys off of him, he's able to accelerate and get really close to scoring a touchdown on this play. We talked a little bit about it in the last segment, but you're going to see another play where Rashod Bateman makes a couple of guys miss, and is accelerating with the ball in his hands after the catch and making plays happen. So about 2 or 3 guys here miss him in the middle of the field, and then it's off to the races, out of bounds, avoiding a big hit. And again, I love this. We need these kind of players in our offense. We saw plays with Denzel Mims doing this. I think he did it against the Dolphins. He caught a pass kind of like on a slant from Darnold and was able to accelerate just like this and get a bunch of yards. And again, we need to make big plays happen, and this guy looks like he can do just that. One of the key elements that the Jets have been missing in their offense for years and years and years is wide receivers and playmakers on the outside to be able to make the first guy miss. This is how big plays happen, making guys miss in open space like this. He gets by the first man, and he's off to the races, nearly breaks this one for an even longer play. Rashod Bateman is very, very good at this, and I would love to see him and Mims, doing this on the outside. So we've been seeing him tear up South Dakota State. Can he beat up a SEC squad, a really good football team in Auburn? And the answer is yes. He's making people miss against truly good competition here on a jailbreak wide receiver screen here. He has the ability to accelerate, to get past that first line of defenders, and then he's into that second level, and he's still making guys miss. So again, yards after the catch. We need more players who can do this. And Rashod Bateman, Denzel Mims lined up on the outside. How are you not excited about the thought of that as your wide receiver duo? In this last game tape clip that we're going to be watching here, we're going to compliment him and we're going to critique him. So he does a really nice job at the beginning of the route here, using his head and his footwork to get the DB to bite on the inside. But then he gets a little bit lazy at the top of the route here. You see that he kind of rounds this thing out. And maybe that's what he was coached to do, but in my eyes, it looks like he could have done a much better job of using better footwork to create even more separation here. Perhaps that the idea was that they didn't want him to run out of bounds before the ball was being thrown. But again, better timing, better route running here could have created even more separation. So small critique here. But again, overall, when I'm watching the tape of Rashod Bateman, I really like what I see. And I see somebody that could complement Denzel Mims so nicely on the outside. It gets me really excited to think about the prospects of that and our offense in general. So to summarize my overall feelings about Rashod Bateman, I do think that this is a guy that is worth looking at in the draft. I think that he is on the rise. So based on what I've been reading online, his workouts and his practices at the Senior Bowl, his actual performance at the Senior Bowl, when scouts spoke with him, they all came away really impressed. And I think that this is a guy that we are going to have to seriously consider at the 23rd overall pick. I don't think that he would be there at 34 overall. Having said that, though, we were all saying the same thing about Denzel Mims last year in the NFL draft. A lot of people were projecting him to go to the 49ers at the end of the first round, to the Green Bay Packers at the end of the first round. So there's always a chance that this guy could be available at the 34th overall pick. And if he's there, I don't see how we pass up on him. He just seems like a great fit for the team. He's a yak guy. He's a yards after catch kind of guy. So I would just love to see him in the offense. And again, how could you not be excited about having two really big, fast, young wide receivers lining up for the New York Jets, potentially with a new quarterback or even with Sam Darnold to help him to resurrect his career. So lots to like here. And overall, yes, my answer would be I would be very interested in Rashod Bateman in the NFL draft. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching NYJ Today. As always, please help me and help this channel out. Please jet up the like button. And if you're new here and if you're loving what you're watching, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing more and more draft profiles every single weekend, all the way up to the NFL draft. We have a weekly live stream every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. So please join us for that and hit us in the comments. We love talking and interacting with you guys. It's always a lot of fun, and we have a couple of laughs as well. So let me know in the comments, do you want the Jets to draft Rashod Bateman at the 23rd overall pick? Would you consider him at the 34th overall pick if he somehow slips to that pick? Is there another receiver that you prefer? Are you not big on Rashod Bateman? These are the kinds of things that I want to be talking about with you in the comments after this video goes live. Go Jets, and I'll see you guys next time.